Hello, William Johnson here, and this is another episode of the Ethnomusicology sessions. I'm excited to get back into this. Before I talk about this beautiful instrument, the Mbira, Happy New Year to you. We're already in a new year, 2020, a new year, a new decade. I mean, it's amazing how time just continues to move forward and life just marches on. So Happy New Year to you. Thank you to all of you who continue to watch this channel and support. Stay tuned, I've got a bunch of stuff, a bunch of new percussion tutorials. I know it's been about a month or so since I've uploaded one, but I've already have a couple in the works that I'm really excited about. And we're gonna get back on track this week with the percussion tutorials. Anyhow, this particular episode of the Ethnomusicology sessions, I wanted to highlight an instrument that has really captured my heart, and that is the Mbira, as well as the Kalimba. To really know and appreciate the history and the origins of the Kalimba, you have to know and appreciate the Mbira. Now, the Mbira itself is, if we used a Western classification term, its organology, is an idiophone. It is an instrument that has often metal tines on a soundboard. And its origin is from the Shona people, Bantu-speaking people of the Zambezi Limpopo River, of the Zambezi Valley, the Limpopo River in Zimbabwe, as well as parts of Mozambique and the Zambia. Now, there are many other names of the Mbira. They're depending upon its region. Now, here in the West and throughout the world, you hear terms such as thumb piano, but they have their own names that are connected to a legacy, a generation old, I'm searching for terms here and I'm failing fast, but generations and generations of history and tradition. So just to say thumb piano, well, they have their own names. This style is often referred to as an Mbira. Now, there are many different versions that have been found for hundreds of years throughout the continent of Africa, such as the Kalimba, the Likembe. In this particular instrument, this style is the Mbira. But even all the way into the Caribbean, you have the marimbula in Cuba, and you have instruments that are related to the Mbira, are styles of Mbira. Such instruments, styled instruments, even in the United States hundreds of years ago, from the Atlantic slave trade and the slaves coming over from West Africa, being brought over from West Africa. And so these instruments being introduced throughout the United States, but through generations becoming extinct. So there are hundreds and thousands of years history of this particular instrument. Now, prior to the Iron Age, they were often created with bamboo or other earthly or organic materials such as bamboo. But there are four common elements found in the Mbira and the Kalimba as well, and that's the soundboard that it's played on, a resonator that it's often played in, buzzing, some materials that are used for buzzing, such as bottle caps. This particular one has aluminum pieces constructed, and the tines, the keys, the metallic keys, often referred to as tines. Now, they have their own names depending upon the region, and their construction or their particular names often are connected to its spiritual and cultural history. So we often here in the West and throughout call them their metal tines, but it goes much deeper than that, and there's no way I could really do an exhaustive video in a few minutes for this particular complex instrument such as the Mbira. Now, its earliest writing, or where it shows up in its earliest documentation that we have, is in 1586 by Father dos Santos, where he referred to it as an Mbira, which is probably his interpretation of the pronunciation that he was hearing. The Mbira's tuning varies based upon region. Some consider it a particular musical piece the same if the same times are struck, even if the tuning is different. So really it just depends on the region. It's a complex instrument that is praised by its ability to sound like many instruments played as one. Culturally, the Mbira is played in religious services to connect to ancestral voices, the ancestors, the elders. So it's also traditionally and culturally a spiritual instrument, an instrument used for ancestral worship and connection to those that have gone on before us. Now, Hugh Tracey, which this kalimba here that I have on my desk here and I'm holding in my hands, was fashioned and constructed by an ethnomusicologist by the name of Hugh Tracey, a farmer who in the early 20th century, in mid-20th century, traveled throughout the southern regions of the continent of Africa, such as Zimbabwe, and had a passion for studying these instruments, and later created this westernized version of the Mbira and called it a kalimba. Now, this is a Western instrument, but really it's an African instrument because it wouldn't be if it was not for this instrument here. And because of its construction, the ability to tune this instrument, you really can tune it with inspired tunings from the likembe, the kalimba, the Mbira. So it really is an African instrument. Provocative statement, I know, but like I said, in order to really understand and appreciate where the kalimba comes from, we have to know its African, African ancestry and origin, and that is of its inspired origin, such as the Mbira. Now, I could go on and on about the Mbira, but I'm no expert. And I mean, again, this is an instrument that has hundreds and thousands of years of tradition. And so to really appreciate it, you really want to go on and check out these links down below. Check out a couple books if you'd like to know. Also, Mbira Magic, a new website, is it's an amazing website that's becoming more and more exhaustive every day with new videos and resources, books, and things to learn to play, as well as its history. Check them out, Mbira Magic, as well as Kalimba Magic, which is another website that actually sells these Hugh Tracey kalimbas and others. Now, I mentioned the resonator. This is a resonator that I use. It's a calabash, a gourd actually. It's a gourd that's grown in the earth, very thick, but you'll notice I actually have bottle caps fashioned onto it, painted myself. But what a lot of musicians often do is place their kalimba or their mbira into the ndezi, that is called Ndeze. There's other names for it as well, but the calabash, and it amplifies the sound of the mbira or the kalimba, whichever particular idiophone here that you're playing. Now, as I was saying before, this is a complex instrument with hundreds of years of tradition. If you really want to know more about it, I highly recommend books like Dr. Paul Berliner's book, The Soul of the Mbira, a very popular book about the history and the origins of the Mbira. Music and Traditions of the Shona People of Zimbabwe. Great book. There's a link down below that I'm going to place, as well as these other websites that I mentioned. One of my main purposes for this particular series is not just to be an exhaustive resource or video rather about these instruments, because I'm no expert when it comes to the mbira, when it comes to the panderos like in the video before, or the cajon or the congas, even though I've been playing some of these instruments for decades now. The context in which these instruments really come from are where you're always going to get the most understanding and the whole big picture, if you want to know the history, as well as the tunings and the traditional authentic sound of that particular instrument. So check out these links if you'd like to learn more about the mbira, not the thumb piano, and explore this amazing, beautiful instrument. Again, thanks guys for watching. Don't forget to hit like on this particular video if you like this video. And if you've been watching this channel and you have not yet subscribed, slap yourself on the hand. Shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. I love you all. God bless you. Heaven smile upon you. See you soon.